What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. We got the John Jones versus Daniel Cormier rematch coming up this weekend. So I figure I'd do another prediction video for that fight card. It's a great fight card. I did really well on the predictions for the UFC Long Island fight card. I even did pretty well with the round and method of victories. So for anyone who's out there propping, you're welcome. I think this fight card is going to be a lot more difficult to predict, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. Hopefully y'all enjoy this. So let's get right into it. First off on the card, we got Josh Burkman versus Drew Dober. It's kind of an interesting matchup. I really like Dober going into this fight. He's coming off a loss. Burkman's also coming off a few losses. Burkman has a bit of a size advantage coming into this fight, but I really like Dober on the feet. He's really well known for his Muay Thai striking, but I think his boxing, in particular his inside boxing and his counters, are gonna show out in this fight. I think on the inside boxing, Burkman likes to throw a little bit more than he should. I think he's better off in the grappling department, pushing guys up against the fence and working kind of that grinding style. But Dober likes to come into fights and kind of surprise grapplers in particular with his own grappling, which isn't bad. I don't think that would be a great idea in this fight. I think he should stick to the counters, and if he does, I think he's going to have a really solid night. I want to call Dober for a finish by TKO or knockout, but Burkman, he's a tough guy. He's only been finished one time by TKO or knockout. He does have a number of submission losses on his record, so I'm going with Dober by submission in the third round due to rear naked choke. We'll see what happens on that one. In the next fight, we got another interesting matchup. We got Eric Shelton going against Jared the Monkey God Brooks. got an interesting nickname there. Another interesting matchup. Brooks is on his UFC debut. He was actually supposed to fight against Ian McCall, but McCall had to drop out a number of months ago due to he had some sort of virus or something like that. But Brooks is making his UFC debut. Both these guys seem really well trained. Shelton's definitely gone against the stiffer competition. It's a tough matchup. I think on the feet, Shelton has got the edge. He's not bad on the ground either. He's got a decent offensive guard from his back. Brooks is also, I've noticed over his last few fights, he's definitely had some improved stand-up, but I think his grinding wrestling style is what wins him fights. He's also coming in undefeated. I would say he hasn't faced quite the competition that Shelton has. Like I said, both these guys seem really well trained. I think if it stays on the feet and Brooks lets Shelton control the center of the ring, it'll be a real long night for Brooks. But I think Shelton might have a bit of a weakness for the grinding wrestling style fighters. So I'm taking Brooks in this fight by decision. He's also a guy who likes to come out to get to a fast start, which I think will help him out in this fight against Shelton. And like I said, if he lets him sit in the middle of the ring and get comfortable, it's not going to be good. But if he comes out and puts that heavy grappling pressure on him, I think he'll get the job done. And in the third fight, the last fight on the prelims, is going to be Kaylin Curran versus Alexandra Stitch Albu, or Albu, however you say it, I don't know. Not a lot to go on in this fight. There's plenty of footage out there on Curran, not so much on Stitch. I know a lot of people are picking Stitch in this fight. I'm not exactly sure why. Her last fight in the UFC was about 2 years ago, so I don't know if people know something that I don't about how she's progressed in her training. I will say, if she comes out looking like she looked in her last fight, which was back in 2015, I don't like her chances. I don't exactly know why people are picking her in this fight. I really like Curran based off of what I've seen. I don't know, maybe... I think I know what people are looking at when it comes to Stitch. They like her attributes a little more than her fighting style, I think. But so in that fight, I got Curran by submission in the second round. I'm calling rear naked choke. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, I got Dober by rear naked choke as well. Then on the first fight of the FX prelims, we got Andre Fili versus Calvin Kattar. Another matchup with Kattar coming in, or Kattar, I guess, coming in on his UFC debut. I really like Fili in this matchup. I think he's definitely fought the tougher competition. I think he's a good fighter, good aggressive fighter. I think that's gonna, from what I've seen, I think that might cause problems for Kattar in this fight. So I got Fili by decision. Next fight on the card, also that fight's in the featherweight division. Next fight we got is Renato Moicano versus Brian T-City Ortega. Super tough fight to call. I love watching T-City Brian Ortega fight. I think he's one of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC, especially for people who like jiu-jitsu, which I do. He's got a great guard, maybe the best offensive guard in the UFC. I say that, and I know there's another guy on this card who's got a great guard, but I'm talking about as far as like, I don't know, maybe as far as like entertainment, entertaining guard, not just guards that can sweep or submit people. I mean, throwing those elbows, strikes off his back. I think Ortega's got just an awesome, entertaining guard. He's going up against a guy who's got a really nice jiu-jitsu too, though. Moicano is no joke. In this matchup, tough one to call. I like how Moicano manages distance. I like it a lot. Also, I like his jabs and his kicks, particularly his leg kicks. Ortega's got some improved striking as well. He's come along nice. It's also been a year since he's had a fight, so it could be interesting to see how his striking looks in this fight. As far as the grappling is concerned, I don't know. I think maybe it's going to cancel each other out. It's tough to tell. Of course, Ortega can always get inside and maybe pull it to the ground, but for this fight, I like Moicano. That's a tough pick. I feel like he manages distance really well. I feel like his striking is going to be the difference maker. So I got Moicano. He's also coming in undefeated. I like the undefeated guys. So I got Moicano by decision. Next fight, we got another interesting matchup. We got Aljamain Sterling versus Renan Barão. Both these guys kind of at a crossroads in their careers. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this fight. I really like Renan Barão coming into this fight. I know Barão hasn't looked too great recently after going on that super long winning streak. I think he had like 30 in a row over something like 10 years. And he's kind of seemingly hit a stumbling block. He's only won 2 out of his last 5 fights. But if you look at the fights that he's lost, his three fights that he's lost, first of all, they only came against 2 guys, just TJ Dillashaw and Jeremy Stevens, 2 guys that I consider to be really, really high-level UFC fighters. So I think his stumbling is maybe a little bit misrepresented. It might just be the fact that he's fought some tough guys. Sterling, on the other hand, also kind of at a crossroads. He lost a couple in a row. He's coming off a win. Barão's also coming off a win. Both these wins that they're coming off of were kind of favorable matchups. I don't take too much away from them. Sterling had a couple tough matches. against Caraway and Rafael Asuncao. I don't like his chances going into this fight, to be honest. I think his striking is a bit stiff, and just I don't like the way it looks, especially coming against Baroa, a guy with very smooth striking, great counters. He's a finisher. I think Aljamain Sterling struggles against guys that counter well, and I like Renan Baroa's counter rights and the way he puts combinations together. So in that fight, I got Baroa by submission in the first round by rear naked choke. I really feel like he's going to hit a counter right on Sterling and take him out. That fight's also a catchweight fight at 140, so that's kind of interesting. Coming into the next fight, it's going to be the main fight on the prelim card. We got Ricardo Lamas versus Jason Knight, a.k.a. Hick Diaz. This is a super interesting fight, tough one to call. Coming into this fight, Knight is on a long win streak. He's hot coming in. Normally, I like going with the hot fighters, but he's going up against the tough guy in Lamas. If you look at Lamas' record, basically he only loses to the very, very top contenders in his weight division. So I think it's going to be a tough fight for Knight coming in. I like Lamas' heavy pressure top game on the ground. Now Knight has a nice offensive guard. He's good with submissions. He's good with striking. I wouldn't say he's quite as good as Ortega or someone like that off his back, but he's good off his back. But Lamas I think he's only been finished one time in his career. And I don't believe it was a submission. I don't think he's ever been finished by submission. In the stand-up, that'll be interesting to see. I think Knight has an edge in the stand-up, but I think it's the type of thing where Lamas can overcome it. So I like Lamas by decision. Coming into the main card, we got another what in my opinion is a really interesting matchup. I think a lot of other people don't think it's as compelling of a matchup. We got Jimmy Manuwa versus Volkan Oezdemir. I think people are kind of writing Oezdemir off in this fight. For me, it was really tough. It's tough to tell how Oezdemir is going to come in, just because, and this is what I kind of like about him. I kind of had a similar thing with Baby Albini coming into the fight last week. He kind of has a little bit of an element of surprise. I mean, we got to see him a decent amount against St. Preux, but in his fight against Serkunov, it was a very short, inside of 30-second knockout. His kickboxing is nice. I really like it. However, he's going against Jimmy Manuwa, a guy who's coming in hot. It's only a two-fight win streak, but it's 2 knockouts where he's looked really good. I really like the way Manuwa looked in his last fight. He just looked so patient, so calm and composed, and just really in his element. So I like that coming into this fight. I think it's going to carry over. He's coming off 2 straight knockouts. I think he's going to make it 3 straight knockouts. I got Manuwa by knockout in the first round. That's a fight in the light heavyweight division also, if you didn't know. Next fight we got coming up in the welterweight division. A very, very interesting fight. We got Robbie Lawler versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. A couple fan favorites, a couple of my personal favorite fighters in the UFC. Coming into this fight, got Cowboy coming off of a bit of a tough loss. Lawler also coming off of a tough loss, losing the title to Woodley in a somewhat short fight where he didn't really get to show much. Woodley came in and just kind of took him out quick. Coming into this fight, I'm a bit concerned about Cowboy and his chances. I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think maybe his team did him a bit of a disservice in his last fight by letting him come out for that second round against oh God, I'm drawing a blank here. Against, what was the last fight? Cowboy's last fight was against Masvidal. How in the hell did I forget that name? Against Jorge Masvidal. He was knocked out. He was knocked out at the end of the first round. I can't believe the doctors and his team let him come out for another round. That was ridiculous. Anyway, he came out for a second round, took even more damage, and I just don't like that. I know he's had time off. It's been a while, but for his career, I think that may have been something that could affect him longer than just that fight. I think maybe it'll take more than just a 6-month layoff to overcome that. Also, I think Cowboy might struggle a bit against guys that can overwhelm him with striking, like Rafael dos Anjos and guys like that. I do like his kicks coming into this fight. I think Lawler might not respond too well to guys with good kicks, which Cowboy has. However, I think his counters off of the kicks can be difficult to deal with. So I kind of like the way Lawler can overwhelm Cowboy coming into this fight. So I got Lawler by knockout in round 3. Also, I should backtrack a little bit. I think Lamas and Hick Diaz, Jason Knight is fight of the night. Also, I think there's a lot of fights on this card that could be fight of the night. I think Lawler, Cowboy could be fight of the night. I also think that Moicano, Ortega could be a good option for fight of the night. Also, the main event. So anyway, I got Lawler in that fight. I got him winning by knockout in the 3rd round. Next on the card, we got, speaking of tough, overwhelming and tough matchups, we got Chris Cyborg Santos versus Tanya Evinger. Not much to say in this fight. I mean, gosh, for somebody, I think she's on Cyborg on something like a 10-year win streak, unbeaten streak. She's knocked out something like 11 fighters in a row. I think 12 if you count the one where she popped hot. But I don't want to, I don't like writing people off. I don't like just saying people have no chance. It seems like a tough matchup. I don't know how Evinger can get it done. It's tough to see ways to beat Cyborg at this point. However, a couple options might be just maybe she can weather an early storm and in the long run get Cyborg in a tough fight. Also, maybe she can catch her. She does have submissions on her record. She's got a couple arm bars on her record, so I don't know. Maybe she can catch her, but I don't like her chances, to be honest. I got Cyborg by TKO in the 1st round. Next, we got the co-main event of the fight. Another super interesting matchup with Tyron Woodley going against the champion Tyron Woodley going against Damian Maia, one of the best jiu-jitsu fighters of all time in the UFC and the all-time in MMA in general. My personal opinion, I think he's one of the best martial artists of all time. I think if you look at what Maia has done in jiu-jitsu with his ADCC championships, with his jiu-jitsu championships and the gi, combine that with his UFC record and what he's done in MMA, I think people should look at him and consider him right up there with people like Rickson Gracie and, you know, whoever you want to throw into that type of martial arts category. You know, if you like Bruce Lee, if you like, you know, just fighters in general. I really think people should look at Maia and think of him as one of the best all-time fighters ever, just considering all around what he's done. He's coming into a title fight at welterweight. He's been in a title fight at middleweight. Fought well at middleweight. He's fought extremely well at welterweight. Coming into this fight, I don't like his chances. Well, I do like his chances, but I like Woodley in this fight. I think if you look at the fighters who Woodley has been beaten by, who he struggled against, it's people who have been able to at least keep up with his speed, at least be able to not match his speed because he's extremely fast, extremely explosive, but fighters who have been able to just be able to manage that speed and just have enough speed to give him problems and grapple with him, keep him up against the cage, which I'm not sure if Maia is going to be able to do. Sure, he could come in and just force a grappling match, pull guard on him, hopefully hit sweeps or a submission off of his back, or just take him down in general, but seems like it's going to be really tough to do. Also, something people might not remember or know, Woodley has a win in MMA over Andre Galvao. Now, I know that's not the same thing as Maia, but it is something to consider. And I think Woodley is going to be tough to beat for Maia. I really do. So we'll see what happens. But I like Woodley by TKO in round 3. Like I said, I think the speed and explosiveness is going to get him the win in this matchup. And in the main event of the evening, wow, we got the rematch of Daniel Cormier versus Jon Jones. We got Daniel Cormier coming in as the champion in this fight. Jon Jones, a man that didn't actually lose his championship due to a fight. He lost by being stripped, as I'm sure everyone watching this knows. Extremely interesting matchup coming into this. Jones has had a layoff. It's been a year since he's fought. DC has been somewhat active. I think since the last time they were supposed to fight, which was at UFC 200, he's had 2 fights. I don't know how much you want to put into the Silva fight, but he's coming off a win against Anthony Johnson. This is an interesting matchup. Really tough to know who to go with on this. I know a lot of people are just going with Jones automatically based off of their last fight. I gotta admit, there's some merit to that. The matchup itself, I think, favors Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones does really well against guys that he has outsized as far as his height and his reach. He manages distance super well. It's one thing I like to measure going into fights. One thing that I think about a lot is the timing, and I don't necessarily mean how well someone times somebody's rhythm, how well someone counters, how well someone's counter hook works as far as that type of timing. I'm talking about when in their career the fight is happening, just that type of thing, momentum and things like that. That plays a big factor for me. And I really think that if Cormier was going to catch Jones, I really felt like UFC 200 was when he was going to catch him. Going into the fight, it's interesting. One thing that has me interested is the way Jones is acting coming into the fight. He's had some things happen in his personal life. He Everyone knows the stories. He suffered a loss coming into this fight, which I really feel for. But having said that, it makes me wonder about where his head's at coming into this fight. Going into the last fight, he kind of had this clear edge over Cormier in the mind game department. It kind of seems like maybe that's flipped a little bit. You got Cormier coming in as the champion in this fight, so it's tough to know. It's tough to know where these guys are at. It's tough to know where Jones is at coming into this fight. His press conference was very strange, I thought. It's hard to tell how much these things play a factor into the fight. There's fights where I think guys are going to be are too emotional, and then they come in and it helps them, and there's guys that comes in and it feels like it hurts them. Maybe it doesn't mean anything at all. But it's a tough pick. But I'm going with Jones by TKO in the second round. I just think the matchup is just made for Jones. I just think, DC being the smaller guy is going to have a tough time getting inside on Jones. He did it in their last fight, though. I think that fight was a bit tougher for Jones than people realize. So by no means do I think Jones is a heavy favorite going into this. But I like Jones by TKO in the second round. We'll see what happens, man. I hope everyone enjoys this fight card. I think it's going to be a good one. Hope everyone enjoyed this video. I look forward to doing another one. Hopefully I'm going to do the next one earlier. I know I said that last time, but I've just been busy with work, and I don't like making videos too early, man. I like watching the weigh-ins. I like seeing how guys look at the weigh-ins. I think that plays a big factor in things. Although you can make that I could have made that argument for DC Johnson, and it clearly didn't matter in that one because DC looked terrible coming off the scale, even though he did some sketchy stuff while on the scale. But anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoy the fights. I'm really looking forward to them. I hope you are too. And if you're out there propping or looking, got any funds on the fight, I hope maybe this could have helped you. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Catch you next time. Peace.